know who you are and what merit badge you're working on, just so we can have it? All three of you? I know one of them's already got it.
Joey, it looks like you're the spokesman.
Yeah, I guess so.
Is there a little green button on that mic?
Yes.
It's already
Okay.
on.
Just speak right into it.
Okay. My name is Joey Barlow, and I'm here to get my citizenship in the community merit badge. So,
Great.
Wonderful. Your name?
my name is Jace Barlow, and I'm here to get the citizenship in the community merit badge.
Thank you.
I'm William Clark. I am getting the community merit badge.
Very good.
Great.
Good
Thank
to
you.
have you with us.
Josh, would you tell us a little bit about that merit badge, what it means?
Well, we all have a responsibility as citizens of this community to be involved, actively involved. That means service, being at meetings like this, voting, and we need to be aware of what's going on in our community. Otherwise, we'll be missing things.
Well, thank you.
Thanks, Josh.
Okay. Now, with that special treat taken care of, Rose Barnes, will you present the Employee of the Month?
Commissioners, actually, we're going to present also the September Employee of the Month since we missed our meeting. And Courtney had actually nominated both September and October employees. So they're on a list, and we just put them on the list because we have a running list that goes on forever, and it makes me so happy because we have great employees at Cardin County. So our first employee for September is Tina Henry. I'm going to let Courtney go ahead and talk about it. Tina didn't want to come up, she said, but I told her she had to.
I have to get here. You have to get here. So I recommended Tina Henry for Employee of the Month because of her dedication to the county and her work ethic. When we had the layoffs this winter, and even before that, Tina kept up with her job and other jobs in her department without complaint. She stepped up to the plate and did what needed to be done so that the county didn't suffer in that area. She always has a smile on her face and a happy hello for everyone that she sees. Tina promotes our county and makes sure that everyone knows about all it has to offer. You never catch her saying a bad word about it and is always standing up for all the great things that we have. When people stop by for information, she is there to answer all of their questions, no matter how small. She learns about the people that stop by so that she can inform them of different places and things that they might want to enjoy. She does this in a non-overbearing way. She never looks for recognition for the job that she does, but is very much appreciated.
Thank you. That was so nice. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks. No. I just want to say thank you to Courtney. I didn't know who nominated me, and that was very nice of her to say, so I really appreciate it, and thank you for the award.
Thanks, Tina.
Thank you, Tina.
Thank you.
Commissioners, our next Employee of the Month for October is Soleil Mello. Soleil, do you want to come on up? Soleil took on a monumental position when she took over payroll. And it's never ending, and she has done a phenomenal job. And that's not why Courtney, well, partly why Courtney nominated her, but I want to thank her also because it was a job that really took a lot of undertaking, and she learned it very quickly and does an excellent job. So thank you, Soleil.
So I recommended Soleil because of her willingness to help people with their payroll questions and the excellent job that she does. Whenever I have questions about payroll, she is there to answer it. And if she isn't sure about the answer, she finds out what it is. She doesn't just guess. She tracks down as much information as she can so that she can give me the best possible answer. When I have questions with payroll, she is always willing to walk me through the process if I am not sure what to do. She understands that she is newer at her job, but she shows a passion to learn more about it so that she can continue to improve. We are lucky to have her represent the county.
Thanks, guys.
Very good.
Thanks,
you.
Soleil.
Okay, the next few items on the agenda are the opening of sealed bids, and we'll go through them one by one. Seth, we have the opening of sealed bids from certified public accounting firms to provide auditing services to Carbon County. How many do we have, or how many firms?
Get the microphone over here. So we have 2 bids for accounting. This one's from Squire. And the amount for 2018 is $45,000. And then they have an amount for 2019, which would be $46,500. And then 2020 will be $48,000.
I'm sorry, again, for 2020, what was it?
2020 will be $48,000.
And is that Squire out of Provo, Orem area?
Yes. This one's from Tusher Walpole LLC. So they have total fees related to the annual audit of $42,500, and then they have another line item, total fees related to drafting the annual report, notes, and required schedules, $5,000. So $47,500, and then if we want a Gatsby 34 conversion, it'll be additional, and then it just has a rate per hour for that.
Well, and Gatsby is one of the requirements, right?
Yeah.
Seth, did they include a bid for the next 2 years as well?
Yeah, it's on following pages.
Oh, okay.
So that, it looks like that's for 2018, and then later on it has a 2019, 45,000 plus the 5,000 for drafting the annual report, notes, and required schedules. So 50,000 total for 2019 and 50,000 also for 2020.
Okay.
Like I said, for the Gatsby, they don't give us a total amount. They just give us rates, partner rates, manager rates, that kind of thing.
Well, Commissioners, I think a proper recommendation would be to acknowledge these bids as, and to include in that acknowledgement that Squire appears to be the lower bid, and that we probably ought to turn it over to Seth's office to more thoroughly review the letters and identify the exact costs of each.
Is that your motion?
That is my recommendation, to entertain such a motion, meaning I'm the chair. I need to get a motion from one of you.
I'll make a motion that we do acknowledge the 2 bids that came in, with Squire being the lowest of them, and then also to have them reviewed by the clerk auditor's office and brought back.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
So we need to make sure we get that on another agenda if it's going to be brought back.
Item number 4 on the agenda, we have opening of sealed bids containing statement of qualifications from consulting firms to provide services to assist with facilitating a brand development strategy for economic development consulting services.
We need to go back
Commission,
up
you
to
skipped
3.
one there.
Oh, you are correct. Item number 3 on the agenda, not to go out of order. Open sealed bids from qualified contractors for the collection of residential solid waste in the unincorporated portions of Carbon County.
We also received 2 bids. This is from City Sanitation.
And Commissioners, technically, this was not just a bid, this was a request for proposal. So there were a number of things that were requested in this in addition to just a number. So it's not going to be strictly a number. Lowest number one is going to win on this one. So just want you to make aware of that as Seth peruses it. There are a number of things beyond just a price that we're looking for.
Do you want to read most of this, or should we just go over the prices at this point?
It's up to the commissioners.
I would suggest just mentioning the overall prices, and we'll likely turn it over for further review.
Okay, it looks like this is a 2-year contract. It says all fees below subject to a 3% annual increase. Curbside residential monthly per can price of $10. Schofield roll-offs $200 each, and transfer station roll-offs $125 each. That's, I think, the meat of it there.
What was the annual increase, Seth?
3% annual price increase. From Waste and Water Logistics. This has a residential curbside pickup, $11.25 per container per month. Carmen County Landfill Transfer Station. They will provide transportation of solid waste accumulated from the county landfill transfer station on Airport Road to ECDC landfill near East Carbon for a fee of $3.80 per cubic yard. Schofield and Clear Creek transfer stations, the fee for transfer is $6.25 per cubic yard. And then county-owned buildings, there will be a weekly solid waste services free of charge to Carmen County Administration Building, Animal Shelter, County Road Shop, Senior Citizen Center, and Carmen County Events Center.
And again, commissioners, there were a number of things other things we're looking at, such as ability to provide the service and that type of thing. So I think we need to look at the whole package that was submitted before we make a decision.
I'd go ahead and make a motion to acknowledge both of those qualifications and bids, and then we will form up a committee here. Seth, we ought to have probably Curtis involved, commission, and review those, Christian also with that, and then we can make a decision from there. Do you want it brought back?
I think it would be good to have brought back.
So on the next commission meeting.
All right, so is that your motion?
Yes.
We have one
I'll second it.
and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 4. Back to where I was getting out of order. Open sealed bids containing statement of qualifications from consulting firms to provide services to assist with facilitating a brand development strategy and for economic development consulting services. And how many did we have for this?
Received 4 bids.
4 bids.
Christian, I think the way this was written, we were just looking for those qualifications to come in, so would it be appropriate just to read who has submitted, and then we can
I think
go
that's
from
all
there?
you'd need to do,
Yeah.
because we're not looking for any kind of proposal even at this point,
Right.
just a list of their names.
The firms Yes.
This is from M&C Saatchi.
Can you spell that?
It's Saatchi. This one's from R&R Partners out of Salt Lake.
The first one, the M&C Saatchi, I was just curious, where are they from?
Their address. Looks like it's from Salt Lake as well. This one's from Roger Brooks International. Looks like it came from Peoria, Arizona. This one's from ADY Advantage.
ADY?
ADY.
Well, Commissioners, I believe we have had some discussions of, as these are coming in, possibly turning them over to our Economic Development Council and some other county staff. So in the motion, please include something to that manner.
I'll make a motion to approve or acknowledge the bids and turn over for review to the Economic Development Council.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. And again, we'll have the summary of the recommendation to bring back at a future commission meeting, just as with the other two items. Thank you, Seth.
Yeah.
Still wrestling?
This one's from Wisconsin, I believe. Let me see.
The ADY Advantage.
Yeah, it's from Madison, Wisconsin.
Okay.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 5 from the agenda, we have the approval of minutes. Commissioners, the minutes that I have, the first set are from Wednesday, September 5th.
I saw no changes. Make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That set
Aye.
is approved. Let's see. And I think that's the only one, right? Yes.
Good luck on your game tonight.
Item number 6, we have presentation from Carbon School District on upcoming summer conference. We have Superintendent Lance Hatch. I think this is very exciting that you're able to bring this event to our community.
We're very excited too. Thank you.
How far outreaching will people be attending?
So the people that will be coming are educators all across Utah, all rural schools and districts are invited. We can get to a few more details in just a minute, but I do want to mention that two pretty extraordinary things happened to bring this here. And the first one is the Utah Rural Schools Association Board, of which Scott Crane is a part, and he's the director of the Southeast Service Center. They made the amazing decision to break from tradition and not hold 2019 summer conference in Cedar City where it's always been, and instead to branch out, bring it to someplace like Price. The second thing that happened was, when approached, USU Eastern not only said, yeah, we'll host it, but they excitedly and with energy said, we want to host it. We can't wait to host it. We're gonna put this together in a great way. So we appreciate the association board. We appreciate very much USU Eastern and their interest in helping with this. But some of the very basic information is it's July 10th, 11th, and 12th. The educators will be arriving on July 10th in Price. They will stay until July 12th. The conference is over around noon, and then they'll be, eating lunch somewhere in Price, I imagine, and then heading out. So a great opportunity for our community. There's been a lot of discussion about, how do we sell our community to people, and we've got, the best population in the state, which is, in my opinion, a bunch of educators coming out to visit our town. So I'd like to turn a little bit of time, if it's okay, to Dr. Crane, and he has just a few more details about the number of people who are likely to attend and that. So he's going to briefly go over that, if that's okay.
Yes, please. And Dr. Scott Crane, welcome to Carbon County.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. I've been here. I served as a superintendent in Grand for the last 5 years, and I was a superintendent in Idaho. And I am really happy to be in Price. I want you to know. Live up in Carbonville. It's a lovely place. I really enjoy the friends and the folks I've met. So I just want to tell you a little bit about it. This conference has gone on for over 20 years, and it started out in Cedar City. And the reason it was in Cedar City is because the Rural School Association is made up of 26 rural school districts, 10 charter schools, and it's divided into 4 service centers. We have the Southeast Service Center, we have the Central Utah Service Center that's in Richfield, we have the Northeast Utah Educational Service Center in Logan, and then we have ours here in Price and the Southwest Educational Center in Cedar. And our mission is to basically advocate for educational equity and advocacy, can't talk today, sorry, in our areas, because the service centers were created to help smaller districts and rural districts provide equity that is very difficult to do sometimes when you're not on the Wasatch Front. And our pillars are educational professionalism, school funding, highly qualified professional development, and technical infrastructure. And so our conference is basically about helping provide professional development and increasing the quality of our staffs. And it is attended by school teachers and administrators and superintendents from all over Utah. We even have on our board a representative from the superintendent of Davis, one of the biggest school districts in Utah, and they come to our conference. It's historically been held in Cedar City, and it's a presentation by local educators, by Utah State Department specialists, and national and international keynotes. Last year we had 2 excellent keynotes. One was Anthony Kim, who is a national recognized leader in educational technology, who's created the personalized learning playbook, Why the Time Is Now, and Christian Moore, who is an internationally renowned author, speaker, and licensed clinical social worker who has created the Y-Tri program. So this isn't, these are big-time names that come here. And last year, we had 428 attendees. We had 109 presenters. We had 11 national, international companies who were sponsors. We are funded by the Utah State Superintendent of Education out of her funds that she can allocate certain things. She helps us pay for the speakers and materials. The rest of the funds come from our attendees conference tuition, which is a big $50 per person, which has been that way for as long as I can remember, and it'll stay that way as long as we can pay the bills, and we're doing very well on that. One of the reasons we began the discussion on whether to have it in Cedar City or not is because it was becoming expensive. The hotels were becoming expensive. The food was a little expensive down there, and so we thought, let's take a look around. And so we looked at Richfield and Price and Cedar again, and we decided that it would be better if we rotated that through Price, Richfield, and Cedar so that it would be closer to different populations and give other people a chance to come if they could. So we did that, and I want to just say and thank, I'm sorry that Tina left, because when we kind of started this process, we went to USU Eastern, Joe Peterson, and then we went to Tina, and they just gave me bags and bags of stuff. And so when I went to the board meeting, I handed out more swag than I think they've ever seen, to show us what we could do here on Price. And they've been so very helpful. So this next year, like Lance said, we're going to be here in July. We expect that we'll probably have 400 plus. We could even have a lot more than that, because one of the speakers that we're working with that has given us a little more than a maybe, he wants to come, is John Hattie. And John Hattie is one of the, I don't know, Lance would say he's the guru that we are talking about in education, about equity for students and what really causes students to progress and be successful in education. And he's written a book about what things really affect the students' education. But we also like to have our local people. So Neil Peacock, who's a local educator in Emory that does speaking tours and is very good about getting people motivated about teaching, about education. He's going to give us our opening keynote on the 10th at noon. And we're excited about that. And then we have some ladies out of California that are technology, and they're also humorous. So we'll have Neil start on Wednesday. We'll have classes on Wednesday. Then Thursday, we're hoping that John Hattie will come and do sessions and a keynote. And then we'll have the ladies from California finish on Friday. So when I say we think we're going to get more than 400, it's an experiment. We've never had it in Price before. But with John Hattie coming, there's a lot of people that want to hear and listen to him and go to workshops. So we could have a lot more than 400, which I hope we do. Let's see if USU Eastern has been wonderful. They're going to provide us all of their classrooms, all of their facilities for free. We're working with their food service personnel who have offered us a very good price on our lunches and our dinners that we serve. We will have entertainment, and we're just looking really forward to doing this. So I guess what Lance and I are trying to do is, this is something that could really help the economics of Price and also help people understand what a wonderful community is. When my wife is from Sanpete, so I knew a little bit about Price. Price is on the other side of the mountain from Sanpete. And when I was at Grand, I came by Price all the time, okay? But I didn't know what Price was or what it was like or what all the opportunities were here. And I think there's a lot of people that go by Price thinking, well, I'll just go down the road a little further. I think we need to get them off the highway, get them in to town and get them in to see all the wonderful things we have to offer them. And so we hope that this would become a kind of a community activity. We're going to work with Tina. We hope for your support. We're looking at getting some local sponsors. The sponsors that we have are educational companies that sell products in education. But what we're hoping is that some of our wonderful people here in Carbon and Emery that support education will come forward, and we'll be able to do some other things, provide free services for the community, and so people will really enjoy their stay here. So with that, if there's any questions that Lance and I could answer, we'd be glad to try to answer them as best we could.
Well, Scott, can I just say that two of the most exciting things from all of this is, one, the economic impact to our community from the additional tourism or the additional people coming here for this conference will be great. Two, the fact that they're all educators, and the substance of your conference being located here will hopefully allow for some of those educators who wouldn't otherwise attend from our area to be there. So it gives our area an extra boost from the benefit of this conference that more of our local educators will be able to attend. And I state that with my father and my sister both being educators. Sometimes it's difficult to attend these costly meetings that are far out of the area. And then just to add to the experience you've had thus far of us being a welcoming community to you and your efforts, you know, if it's an additional incentive to the wonderful keynote speakers and everybody else that you have coming, we'd love to throw in maybe 2 or 3 9-mile tours that you could publicize to the potential candidates to maybe help be that extra incentive to register and sign up.
John Hattie can go anywhere in the world, any day, for any price. So if he's coming here, it's because he wants to visit, he wants to see something.
And so let's continue the dialogue, whatever we can do to support you in those efforts. And we are very grateful that you are bringing John Hattie and this conference.
Well, we appreciate your support. Keep your fingers crossed on John. If John isn't able to come, we'll have some other quality speakers.
Maybe we need to send him not a Range Creek, but a 9-mile incentive as well.
Well, we're hoping for a lot of those things. You know, the museums here, and 9 Mile, and the gun range out in Emery, and all the wonderful things we have, the historical tours that happen with the Historical Society. There's just a lot of wonderful things, the 4-wheeler opportunities. We're going to try to really promote this. We want to go on the tourism site, pull off some of those videos, and we'll send it with our announcements. And Emery and Carbon have always been very supportive of this conference. Grand and San Juan, not so much, because it's pretty far to go from San Juan over to Cedar. And in talking to those superintendents, they're excited about the possibility they'll be able to send some people here, and it won't cost them an arm and a leg, because it is, you know, the conference is not that expensive, but hotels are expensive and eating is expensive, but pretty reasonable in price. Tina helped us get prices on hotels, and all the hotels we contacted were willing to give us really good rates. And I'm sure now that it's official that we can, you know, get really good rates, and I'm sure the community restaurants will be able to, you know, help them out. And what a nice package that we can give people to say, if you come, you're going to get this activity and this activity. And this is a family conference. People just don't come by themselves. Usually they bring their family with them. So thank you very much. Is there any other questions?
Not a question, just please notify the eateries around town
So they can
what meals, so they can gear up for the food. I know when we've had events that we didn't tell them about,
they didn't have enough staff, enough food.
or enough food, so.
We're going to contact, we're on the agenda for a city council meeting. We hope to communicate with the Chamber of Commerce, and we want everybody to be aware, because, you know, I think any individual business who wants to throw a coupon out there in the registration materials, I mean, there's a lot of different ways that we can advertise what we have here.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate you. Thank you. It's always good to have exciting things like that during our meetings. Item number 7. we have the ratification of contract with Johansson and Tuttle Engineering for services regarding Westwood Project 2018. Commissioner Holmes, would you like to speak to this?
This is, Commissioners, it follows along with our EWP projects. We went through the process of soliciting engineers. Johansson and Tuttle was awarded one of the projects, and they have sent this agreement that Jake has signed, and it's just here for ratification. An update on that, they're about 90% design. They've submitted that to the NRCS, and within a few weeks we should know if they can move forward with bidding out the project.
And this is up for ratification because it was a time-sensitive matter that they required a signature basically on behalf of the county. And so this is kind of an explanation of those efforts.
Motion to ratify.
I'll second that.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Commissioners. Item number 8 on the agenda, a public hearing on a change to the Carbon County zoning map from C1 to RR-1 on parcel 02075-7 located at 1587 West, 1250 North for Jeff D. Smith. Now, Jeff, we're going to have you say a few things before we go into the public meeting, just to kind of give us an explanation of what the reason is for the zone change, and then we'll go from there.
Correct. As you know, my name is Jeff Smith. I live at 1587 West, 1250 North. I have 2 parcels of property out there. I got the parcel where my house is, which is RR1. The other parcel, which is 2.09 acres, is C1. All I want to do is make both properties consistent with each other, and that's all I want to do. As you know, you got to have over 3 acres to have commercial property. That's all I would like to do. Change it to
just
RR1.
For various setback rules that are in our code or whatever, it doesn't allow you to unless you combine the two, which you're in the process of doing. So pretty straightforward and easy to understand what the reason is there. Before we go into the public hearing, Commissioners, do you have any questions for John that might be clarifying for the audience?
No.
I don't.
Okay, appreciate it, John. Or Jeff, sorry. With that being said, we'll open up this public hearing at 5:07 p.m. Again, if you would like to speak to this item, please come to the mic, state your name for record, and express an issue or concern that you might have, and be brief. We'll give one more moment if anyone would like to approach the mic. Seeing no one, we'll go ahead and close this public hearing at 5:08 p.m. Item number 9 on the agenda, the review and possible adoption of Ordinance 504, a change to the Carbon County zoning map from C1 to RR1 on parcel 02-0750-7 located at 1587 West, 1250 North for Jeff D. Smith.
I'll make a motion to approve Ordinance 504, zone change from C1 to RR1.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, John.
Thanks.
Commissioners, for the following 2 items. First, we have a public hearing and then a possible ordinance. Just as a word of clarification, I do have a conflict of interest as certain individuals, at least one, who oppose this are clients of mine in my private practice. So the motions will have to be made by the 2 of you. First item, public hearing on a change to the Carbon County zoning map from RR-2.5 to I-2 on parcel 02-2215, located at 2850 East Richelman Lane for Roy D. Campbell.
Commissioners, can we have Todd maybe introduce this
I
item
think
and
that
give
would
you a
be
brief
appropriate,
explanation
yes.
as to what's going on here?
Todd, would you give us an explanation and an idea of the process that's taken place to lead up to this?
So Artie has come in for a proposed zone change. He's met with the Planning Commission a few weeks ago. So currently his property is zoned RR 2.5. He's looking to change the zone to I2, for, Industrial 2. The reason behind that is for a bulk commodities company to haul out bulk commodities, whether it's oil, pipe, things of that nature. They're looking to add a new loop rail spur on the property, so there won't be any other expansion of any coal yards or anything like that. It's just for more capacity for a company to bring in oil tankers and to haul out commodities for the area. So it'll go, there's a big loop that'll go across the property and then come down so they can have plenty of areas to put all the rail cars. So that's what they're looking to do. As you're aware from the map, to the west is industrial, to the north is industrial, to the east is residential properties, and then to the south is Wellington City along Ridge Road, and it's their manufacturing industrial zones to the south. So that's what the item is looking at.
So as far as the types of use and the parcels surrounding, as you just explained, it's pretty varied, and it is a consistent use with parcels to the west.
Yes.
And that, however, there are parcels to the east that have.
That are zoned residential, yes.
Any other clarifying points that you'd like to put forth?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head.
Okay. And as far as comments made to the potential new use and everything, that can be given by the audience in the public hearing.
Yep.
Thank you, Todd.
Okay.
Okay. As mentioned, we'll go ahead and open this public hearing. We'll do so at 5:12 p.m. And again, those who come to the mic and speak, please be brief, but please state your reasons for concern and you know that you're for or against the project. Or when I say the project, please speak to the zoning change.
I'm Shane Campbell, and I got the property next to it down there. And this is actually going to bring a lot of jobs to the area, and it is commodities that's going to come in and out of there. I don't know if any of you have seen the map on the rail spur. Microtex looked at this. They've got the bonding for $100 million on this project.
Yep.
That is you've heard of the biodiesels and the diesels that they're wanting to put out there. That's part of this change in there. And that would employ at least roughly 60 people. And then you get more than that as the commodities come into the loop line. And that's the futures of it. If you notice, there's some spur tracks that come off of it, and then the big loop track that comes in, which would be pipe and maybe frac sands and stuff. And you know, you look at the employees that they brought into PRT, and this is similar to what they're doing at PRT.
Now, this has probably been discussed in the, I apologize. This is for comment only. I'll ask a question after the public hearing is over.
Okay. That's about what I got to say.
Thank you, Shane.
I'm Gary Scow. I'm against the project. I'm one of those residential owners east of this proposed zoning. My family and I have bought 100 acres in there to develop for our children and grandchildren. I went through planning and zoning and site review committee 3 times this last year, We've developed 6 lots, and that includes the Bar S Ranch subdivision, Aggie Acres, and Green Thumb. If you stand back without judging one side or the other, you look at Carbon County, the whole top and both sides is Book Cliffs, but there's a cove of property below that. And if you look at how much green there is in Carbon County, there's not that much. It's in the drainages. Anything below the canals is green, and that's where people want to live. I'm for this project, but I don't want it in my neighborhood. If this zone is approved, it'll be right across the fence from me, and that's unacceptable. I've lived there for the last 15 years. I've put up with a coal pile. It has its ups and downs. You need to ask yourself, how far would you want to live from an industrial zone? Heavy industrial. ECDC's heavy industrial. I go there almost every day, hauling waste. I wouldn't want that in my backyard, and I don't know that you guys would want a coal pile or a heavy industrial tanker shipment facility in your backyard. I think there's plenty of room in Carbon County for both. First off, let's let the residents live in the green areas. That's where they want to live. They're not going to go out to Clarks Valley and put a subdivision in. Put the heavy industrial out in the desert areas. Okay, use them. Look, for example, Wildcat loadout. It's not being used. It's been sitting idle. So I don't really know that we need a lot more heavy industrial use. ECDC, right next to that, that's heavy industrial, just like this is. And it's miles away. We need to look at our neighbors to the south, Emery County. Suffolk Coal Mine just put a loadout in. It's miles south of the town of Emery. I bet they're not getting complaints from any resident about coal dust or any type of industrial use. So I'm for the economy. I used to be a coal miner. I've been a coal truck driver. I feel for the economy, but as far as jobs coming back into the county, I have 4 children that's came back to the county that want to live here and build a house. They've been renting. They have building lots there, and they're not too happy about having a huge industrial spot right next to them. I've talked to my neighbors that live in subdivisions around there. James Reynolds, he lives up on Hillcrest subdivision. That's off of Old Wellington Road. That's 1.8 miles northeast of the coal pile. There was a windstorm that came through there, and he had just set out his tomato plant frost protectors, and after they're filled with water, after this windstorm came through, there was 1/8 of an inch of coal dust in the bottom of that. I drove from Price to Wellington through the storm, and it was a blackout from the coal. So we needed to ask ourselves, how close do we want to live to this when we have all this other room in the county to put it? So I'd encourage you guys just to look at that. Here's a picture of the county. This is the existing loadouts, and for places I would suggest you could do some heavy industrial so you don't have complaints from people that live all around it. I wrote a letter to you guys too. Is everybody able to look at that and see all my other concerns? Okay, I won't go into them. Thanks.
Gary, I just point out that the letters we've received from various people are kept on record.
Hey Commissioners, I'm Brandon Scow, Gary's son. Currently live in Price with, as he said, intentions and plans to build near this area that we're talking about. A couple of my concerns. First of all, I'm against the zoning change. A couple of reasons. First of all, I went back to the, I guess what you'd call the intent of I-2 zoning that came out. We received a copy of the 4.2.14 I-2 heavy industrial zone legislative intent. And as I read through that, it specified that I-2 industrial zoning says that it can locate with minimum conflict or deleterious effect on surrounding properties with high degree of protection from encroachment of residential and commercial uses. And then it goes on to say that because of the nature of this zone, it may produce hazard, nuisance, disturbance if located in close proximity to where people are living. Just looking at the map, this essentially would be less than a quarter mile from the edge of my house. To me, that's definitely causing deleterious effect, whether it's sound, whether it's traffic, whether it's dust blowing through the air. Essentially, that's a heavy industrial yard a quarter mile outside of my house. Also, if say I opted, okay, now if it goes to industrial zone, maybe I don't want to live there anymore. At that point, my property is now devalued because nobody else would want to live there either. Along with that, so as my dad mentioned, over the last 6 months, we've worked with planning and zoning, been able to change the zoning to the appropriate zoning. I feel like this change is incongruent with what's already been put in place. So for example, had this gone to zoning 3 months ago and the zoning had said, you know, that's industrial area, we don't want to encroach, they would have not approved for it to be residential. But because they did, I feel like adding additional industrial close to residential is in conflict with what the goal of heavy industrial zoning is, which is to make sure it has a high degree of protection from encroachment. So those are the two big things, two big reasons. I feel like I do not want to live there if that's the type of zoning that will be happening. And again, I know there are other areas to look at in the county. It's a really nice piece of ground. It's a really nice location, and it would be unfortunate to have that put right in the backyard, basically. Along with that, just as I almost hate to say this because I know it's a little bit of hearsay, but the word on the county, out in the county, I've heard from multiple people, is that Campbell's have had multiple incidents and complaints against the industry that they put right next to their own house. And if they're having troubles with it next to their own house, I don't see how they can expect that the rest of the neighborhood would be happy with the same thing. So I urge you, again, how close would you want to live to heavy industrial area? Does it seem like a congruent zoning with the recent approval of residential area a quarter mile away? Does it give enough area to provide that high degree of encroachment to separate the two areas? Again, I ask that you oppose this change. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm sorry I showed up in my farm clothes, but I'm a farmer and this is what it is every day. So
You're representing well. Please state your name for the record.
Yes, it's Jaylene Malaris, and I support this. I'm very good friends with RD and Peggy. I've known them since I was a child. They border our mountain property on the mountain. We've ran cows next to them my whole life. Been excellent neighbors, great people, have treated me so well over the years. And it's my understanding this property is close to Ridge Road, behind his corrals, which I have been there many times. It's right there by industry. And I just look at RD, he has been such a hardworking man. He's in the, sorry about this, RD. He's in the later chapters of his life. If he wants to rezone and do what he wants with his property, he should be allowed to do this. I have a farm east of Price. I drive past industry every day, right at the very top of my lane. For some reason, it does not bother me. My brother lives there, my sister lives there. I have a farmhouse there. I stay there a lot at the farmhouse. It's not an issue for us. I mean, I guess for some people it is, but what I choose to do is I choose to change the way I look at things so the things I look at begin to change. And I don't focus on the negative of there being industry at the top of my lane. Fred Oakton owned the property. He offered it to my father. My father didn't purchase it. It was then purchased by Mark Minchie. He had Price Steel Fabrication for years. And now Jimmy Jensen has Longwall Associates there. And for me, I have embraced it, and when I need a forklift, I call Jimmy and he comes down to my farm and he does something for me. Yeah, occasionally there's been a semi drive down or turn around in my hay field, and it makes me crazy, and I call Jimmy and I say, hey, you know, this can't happen, and Jimmy takes care of it. And, you know, simple things like that. We get along great. We're good neighbors. I'm just saying that it is possible to live on your farm in a nice green space and have it be by industry and not let that bother you. And it's right next to the railroad tracks. That doesn't bother us either. My brother would tell you that. My sister would tell you that. So I'm in support of it, and I think RD deserves to do with his ground what he wants to. And I thank you so much for listening to me.
Thank you for your comments.
Thanks.
I had a few comments for what Gary said. You know, there's the property that north of there, I've looked at putting a pipe yard in there, and without this heavy industrial there, all that truck traffic we'll probably upgrade that county road, and all that truck traffic will be in front of his house then. If we have this industrial use, then we can come off Ridge Road and access it that way. Otherwise, it's going to be in front of his house. So there's some pros and cons on this for him, but the benefit to it and the way the circle track is, it's away from that property line enough that and he was out, I've been there my whole life, and the coal yard's been there, and when Gary moved out there, the coal yard was there. We're not putting a coal yard in or wanting to rezone it for a coal yard. It's commodities, which is a lot different than a coal yard. And like I said, there's, you know, I want to put a pipe yard in, and that other property is already zoned industrial. So if I do that way, the only access I have is on that county road. So I don't know if he wants trucks, you know, 40, 50 trucks a day in front of his house, or it would be better to access it through this industrial property. I mean, there's, you know, it would make it a lot easier that way for everybody to have this zoning in there. And I've lived right by it my whole life. I've got industry all around me. So I think it needs to be industrial.
Thank you for your comments.
My name's Mary Scow. I'm Gary's wife. I just had a few comments. I am definitely against the project. You know, I want to have my grandkids out there by me. I don't want all that stuff there for them. We've talked to other neighbors up the road. They don't want it up there either. I grew up just a mile from where I live now. I lived in Price for 25 years, but where I'm living right now is about a mile from where I grew up. And my family have commented on that too, the problems with the coal dust and the noise that they hear as it is. And yes, that the coal loadout was there when we moved there. In fact, we considered it long and hard if it was far enough away for us. And we decided that we loved the area enough and it was pretty. And so we moved there anyway. But for my grandkids, my family, we would prefer to just keep it residential and not have all that right next to us, because it would be right next to us. I am pro-industry. My dad was a coal miner his whole life. I'm proud of that fact. I support, industry. I support Carbon County. But as far as having that zoning change right next to me, I'm very much against it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Hi, I'm Scott Young. I am in favor of this project. I think it's a good fit for the ground, and the 50, 60 jobs is music to my ears. We need more economy in this county, and so I'm in favor of it. Thanks.
Thank you, Scott.
Thanks.
I was hoping to talk a little longer, but my name is Emily Scow. We own the lot at the end of Richelman Lane and 500 West. We've been fixing it up for the last year in preparations to hopefully build a house next spring, finally get that in. We'll hope to live there with our 3 little boys and teach them the lessons we had growing up on farms. We are against this. I am very pro-industrial. My dad was, I'm sure everybody's dad or uncle or somebody was a coal miner if they're from around here, grew up from here. And we are very pro from that, but we worry about the development that would increase noise and destroy the scenic beauty. The reason that we picked that piece of land, that why we want to live there. We worry about the traffic on that lane, because we do have little ones that will be out and about. While working on the property, we noticed many residents of Wellington City walk up and down that lane out for exercise, bike rides. They enjoy the beauty of that area, and it's just a nice bit of land to run on. It's going to affect more than just our land. There are other people, at least 3 other homes that will be within range of this proposed industrial piece of land that it's going to affect. And I don't know where they are, but maybe they didn't hear about this, but take them into consideration. They'll be within 200 feet of their front door. I understand where you guys are at and putting this compromise of, yeah, we want to be the good guy and bring jobs into this community, but we don't want to step on toes of other people. And yes, it's his land and it's their land, and I think we also have a right to voice our concerns of how we want to raise our family and how we want to own our properties. And so I hope you take everything into consideration and think really hard about this. And you have a copy of our letter, I'm sure. And so I appreciate all the comments. So we haven't heard of anything like that, but I just ask that you consider it all from all advantages and all views. I'm sorry, I'm like shaking. I'm really nervous. I don't know why I should be.
You're
It's
okay.
just 3 regular guys, but just look at it all from the pros and cons of both sides. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Emily.
Alan Peterson. I'm in favor of the project, and wow, you guys have a job. I'm friends with both families. I know both families involved in this. I have no knowledge of intimate details. I pulled it up on this GIS site. I looked at it, see where the railroad spur is, see where the parcel is that they're requesting the industrial zone change to, see the entrance road that they're talking about that the residents use and all of that. And man, there's a lot that goes into it. Earlier today, we heard a presentation from the superintendent and the guy about bringing in 400 tourists for a weekend, and how the excitement that something like that brought. 50 or 60 industry jobs. You know, we want everything. We want that other stuff, but without a foundation of industry for that other stuff to build on, we're going to continue to be in trouble. We hear a lot when potential industries look at us and then they choose not to come for whatever reason, because we didn't have this or we didn't have that. One thing we do have is open space, and one thing we do have that's pretty special is a railroad, and that energy terminal, CV spur, whatever you want to call it out there. That's pretty unique, and you don't find those everywhere. You don't necessarily find those out in the remote lands where there's no people. So sometimes the infrastructure dictates where someone wants to be. Anybody that's been involved with economic development knows that there's a list of requirements. There's a list of things that industry needs. And so, like I said in the beginning, I'm for it, because I think we can't keep hearing every year that we're $2.5 million in the red and hope to make that up off of weekend tourists or call centers on Main Street. We need those things, but we need a foundation of industry jobs to build that other stuff on top of. And I'm glad I'm not sitting up there. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan.
Thanks.
Good evening, Commissioners. Paul Riddle, and I am for the project with what I know of it. Small disclaimer there. As a business owner, I believe county should be ran similar to a business, and in such, you need to diversify your lines of income. And with another business, another company, another industry, whatever it may be, is a means of doing such. At some point, there will be a dividing line between industrial, be it light to heavy industrial, and residential. There will be a line drawn somewhere. Where that line is, I'm glad it's not me right now. You guys get to choose that. But it will be there, and it will affect both parties to some degree. But I think there's a lot to be said about bringing more jobs. We are in great need of more jobs. No, I don't care if it's one job or it's 100 jobs. At this point, we need what we can get. We should take what we can get and help to the extent that we are able to with these companies. We shouldn't be in a position of picking winners and losers when it comes to a company for succeeding or anything like that. We need to do what we can as a community, as a county, as a I guess, lack of a better term, a county family, to foster each other and try to better everything that we've got. So with what I do know about what's going on, I'm for it. We need everything we can get. Thank you.
Thank you.
So this one's tough for me because I am friends with the Scow family, but my name is Nick Nilsson.
There you go.
And I am for RD being able to rezone his property. If we look at Ridge Road and what its intent is and what it is purpose, it is industry. And you guys are aware of that. You asked some of the businesses, current businesses on Ridge Road, to sign something redoing Ridge Road to get a grant so that it can handle the truck traffic there. Casey, you're aware of that grant that you asked for?
Yes.
That grant is to support industry, and industry brings jobs.
Now, Nick, would you also identify the company you represent?
So I work for Savage Services. I'm next door to RD's property, so we're the coal yard that they talk of, and there is a way of being good neighbors. There's a way of meeting a joint goal and being good neighbors. I get not wanting to have something put directly in your backyard, but there is limited space for rail in this community and clear access to it for specific commodities. That's more of a challenge than was made clear earlier. I have a decent knowledge of the coal industry, and I've watched the reserves in our county deplete to where we're not seeing the revenue sources from the coal. So the revenue from moving serious product through this area would be a great benefit to the community along with the jobs. Again, I'm for RD being able to rezone his property. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick.
I'm Kurt McFarland, and I'm for this project. My son-in-law is working in Wyoming now because he can't find a job around here. And right now he does have an application in with Savage, and these jobs would be big for the community. So I'm for this project.
Now, Kirk, just to clarify or make it aware to all, you also are an alternate on the Planning and Zoning Commission, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, and when they presented this to the Planning and Zoning, it went through good, and I was in favor of it then and still am.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
My name's Jay Marple, and I'd like to say I'm for this project for two reasons. One is Mr. Campbell, property rights to be able to do what he wants to with his property. And second, I've only been a Price resident for 4 years, and I come out and I see all this nice stuff. There's rec centers and ball fields and just the wonderful things you've done for the community. And then I see what's happening in the coal mines. Reserves are drying up. We need to bring more industry in this area. And it needs to be good jobs. It doesn't need to be jobs working for some local businesses for $8 an hour. You know, people need to be able to raise their families. And, you know, industry, this type of industry will supply them type of jobs. So I'm for it.
Thank you.
What was your last name? I didn't catch that.
Marple.
Afternoon, glad I could make it. My name's Russell Scow. I sent a letter earlier. Hopefully you guys were able to read it. I just wanted to point out a few things. I'm against the change. The biggest thing I wanted to point out was the buffer zone that's been outlined in my letter, that Mr. Campbell kept 200, or actually it was a quarter of a mile distance from his house to the industrial zone. And I feel that by changing this boundary, it's going to leave 3 homes within 200 feet of the industrial zone. And just seems like not a good idea if the person that has it there and, you know, sold the land to them and then still kept himself that far away to put someone else, you know, with kids or whatever that close to industrial, just seems like not a very good idea for safety and otherwise. Apologize, I was a little late, so I don't know what's been said about the past, but I just feel it seems like he's going back on situations that occurred to him and doing them to somebody else. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Dave Cave, and I'm for the project. We got to get some jobs in for these young people. I've spent 37 years in the coal mines as a supervisor most of the time. And you know what's happened to our tax base. And I think this project, if it can bring in a little tax base for this county, I'm for it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in attendance that would still like to speak?
My name is Annie Scow, and I oppose this zoning change. I do not oppose the industry in our community, but I feel like it would be better placed elsewhere. The land is green there, and it's hard to reclaim green land. So I oppose this project.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
I'll make another invitation to anyone who would like to speak. Seeing none, I'll go ahead and close this public hearing at 5:43 p.m. And with that being closed, before we move on to the next item, I'll just provide a little bit of clarification on when a county commissioner may have a conflict of interest in regards to making a vote on a decision such as this. An example may be, this may be a very good example for everyone going forward just to understand. I currently do have a client who has written a letter of opposition towards this project. That may affect my ability to make a moral and ethical decision based on this project alone. Therefore, I am ineligible to vote because for monetary incentives and other potential gain that I may have outside of being a commissioner, it would possibly infringe on my ability to do so and think of the public's best interest. And so with that clarification and other items, as you may see going forward in the future or have seen in the past, commissioners may have to abstain from voting, as is this circumstance. Back to the agenda. We have item number 11. Well, and yes, we have the review and possible adoption of Ordinance 505, a change to the Carbon County zoning map from RR-2.5 to I-2 on parcel 02-2215 located at 2850 East Richelman Lane for Roy D. Campbell. And just as a point of acknowledgement, obviously with this zone change, the land will provide the county additional tax base. We'll be able to receive more money because of that. And the additional jobs, if people move into our community to work, that would also increase the tax base as well as increasing the average wage that the county that the county residents would be receiving. However, on the flip side of the coin, we do have at least one family and a handful of other local residents that would be negatively affected by it. And as Alan Peterson mentioned, sometimes as commissioners, our decisions, at least as perceived by the community, are not always the easiest to make. And sometimes we have to make hard decisions. Going forward, decisions like this will be a little bit more, will be easier for the commissioners to make, I would say easier, because currently our county plan is rather antiquated. And Todd and the Planning and Zoning Commission are going through our county plan. It's going to be a multiple year process. But within the county plan and with economic development and tourism and the commissioners, a plan going forward will help to identify areas that we would like to promote and encourage growth, where we have county assets to put towards projects like this, so that people who live within these areas will know what to expect going forward. At least have a better idea. And again, this is a gray area because on one side we have zoned for industry, and on the other side we have zoned for agriculture. We may continue to, going forward in the future, to always have conflicting cases like this. With that being said, commissioners, I will entertain more discussion. I'll entertain a motion.
I have a couple questions. If this were zoned industrial, and I know this is not the place for, we're not talking about access, but if it were zoned industrial, would it be required to have access off of Ridge Road? How close can buildings or general operations be to other places? Do we have answers to those questions?
So depending on the exact location of buildings, and they would have to submit a site plan, and depending on what exactly is going to be happening, truck traffic, there would be some county standards that would have to be met. So anything in an industrial zone is required to have a conditional use permit. They have to submit a site plan. With that site plan and conditional use, we look at things such as noise, health, safety, welfare issues, access issues, to make sure that we can mitigate any negative effect that there might be. So depending exactly where things are located and what needs to be accessed that property, we would determine how they would access it.
Okay.
So.
Thank you.
Did you have another question?
That was
it. The difficulty in the whole situation, and I have not, by purpose, have not responded to either side. I've acknowledged in this meeting that we've got the comments, we've got the letters that have come in, and it is difficult just simply because I know the Scows very well. Their sons have grown up with mine, and I know the Campbells very well because of their history here. And so it is not one of those easy decisions. I've driven out to look at where things lay and how it really affects us. The one thing that I did want to bring into the meeting, and I'm glad that Gary brought the maps in, but in regards to our loadout situations and our access to rail, Wildcat is very unique in that it is on BLM ground and has recently gone through a purchase and will hopefully be developed to be some type of a loadout there. We went through the same thing with the Martin Yard, who now has a loadout facility. Savage obviously has their dual operation. Price River Terminal has a beautiful facility, but I don't see that this type of a project would fit in to where they're developing, which takes us out to the ECDC line that goes there. And so there are some unique challenges as far as the rail goes, and it is a huge asset to the county. It's definitely one of those things that continues to provide opportunity for our county in almost every industry that we have here. So anyway, I've tried to be very thorough and tried to look at my homework, do my homework on it, look at the impact that is there, and it definitely, in my opinion, this is a no-win day for any of us. but it is one of those days that we do have to, go forward and make those decisions. So I do appreciate your comments and on both sides, and all those that have participated. So it's part of a good, healthy public process. So thank you. And Commissioners, I didn't have anything else or other questions to add. I just wanted to, express some of those thoughts and opinions that have been part of my decision making, not to try and let one side or the other be of more influence than what they are, than what they were. With Commissioner Miller stepping away from it, I am going to go ahead and make a motion. And in a lot of ways, I have reservations on both sides, but I will recommend that we go ahead and change the zoning to the I-2.
We have a motion to approve.
Similarly, this is a very difficult, tough decision, but looking at all of the industry that surrounds this area, it makes sense that it would go there. I know it has some conflict with some of the residential, so I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second, and one abstain. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Now, just as a moment of clarification, there is a process. Just because the zoning change has taken place doesn't mean that there is a conditional use permit, doesn't mean, a number of other things. There is a furthering of this process of which we invite the community to be a part of.
For the Scow family, that would be the opportunity to work with whoever is developing that land, if it does go forward, to make sure any concerns that you have as far as where the buildings are, where the rail is, that's your opportunity to speak up and
make them aware.
Make sure that the noise is controlled, fugitive dust, different things like that. Thanks.
Item number 12 on the agenda. Consideration and possible approval of contract with Utah Administrative Offices of the Court for District Court Security Bailiff Services. Christian, would you like to speak to this item?
Commissioners, this is the annual contract that we sign with the Administrative Office of the Courts to provide us some help with the bailiff security that Sheriff Wood provides, as well as perimeter security at the 7th District Courthouse, where the 7th District Court and the Juvenile Court take place. We sought to get an increase in this amount. We were told by the local court administrator that it will not be possible to get an increase. What I think we need to do is approach the state immediately and tell them that we'd like an increase in this amount because of the fact we have a new facility that requires, there's a lot more space. There are more security requirements with this new facility, so the sheriff really needs at least another part-time person there to help out at the courts. He really does some magic to make everybody's schedule work to provide the security that's there, but he does it, and this is the amount we've got to work with this year. Doesn't cover the full amount, but it is an amount of $57,045 that we can receive, and in return we will provide the sheriff will provide the security at the courthouse.
I'll make a motion to approve that contract.
I'll second.
We have a motion to approve and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Christian. 13, consideration and approval, or possible approval, of an agreement with Loudermilk Rock Products of Utah, Inc. for the acquisition of real property for stormwater retention. As Todd has left the audience, Christian, would you speak to this item?
Yes, this is an agreement with Loudermilk Rock Products, represented tonight by Richard Lee, who's here. Loudermilk Rock Products of Utah, Inc. owns property just adjacent to the Hill subdivision and the Hill assessment area, and the company has agreed to provide approximately 9 acres of property that will be used for a stormwater runoff retention basin that will catch the additional water runoff that's going to come off of that new road once it's constructed. And so the terms of that agreement are that the property will be given to Carbon County, but only for so long as the property is actually used as a stormwater runoff detention basin. Additionally, the county is going to get an appraisal for that and provide a IRS Form 2383 recognizing the value of the contribution from the company to the county. We've already received a survey of that. That property has actually been approved to be subdivided off by the Planning Commission. That was done last night. We're going to use professional title services to act as the escrow agent for the transaction. And so I think we've agreed on the form of the deed as well. The county is going to assume all liability with respect to that detention basin once it's been conveyed to us. I don't know if Richard wanted to add anything, but I think that's more or less the gist of the agreement. So this is an essential part of the Hill subdivision. Without this contribution of this property,
Puts the whole project in a.
yeah, so this is a nice benefit that we're receiving from Mr. Lee on this project.
I'll make a motion to approve the agreement with Loudermilk Rock Products.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Did I get an aye?
Mhm.
Okay. Item 14, review and possible approval of interlocal agreement for the Southeastern Utah District Health Board. Christian, did you have enough time to fully review all of that?
Yes, I reviewed it. I think there were just a couple of concerns. I drafted up some additional language, and I just got it to Brady. Brady's barely had any time to look at it.
And just to mention, we do have Brady Bradford, the health officer for the district, for the department, here with us today.
I remember what item 2 was.
So, in discussing this with each of you separately, I think there was some concern about a couple of things. One of those things was that, as you are aware, the commission has the commission or council of each participating county has always appointed one of their own commissioners or a council member to the board. The statute says each council members or each board members to have a 3-year term on the board. There's been discussion between all of the different counties with respect to allowing a substitute commissioner appear in the event that the
assigned commissioner.
Yeah, the assigned commissioner can't come. So I've actually written a separate paragraph to address that. That would say a county commission or council may appoint a substitute commissioner to attend a board meeting or other official function in the stead of a commissioner who's unable to attend. The substituting commissioner shall stand in the stead of and shall have all of the rights of the commissioner for whom he or she is appearing at said meeting, including the right to vote, make and second motions, and be recognized by the chairman of the board. We've indicated that the previous language also said that the board itself could act to remove a member. And it's my understanding in speaking with you and that you, in speaking with some other counties commissioners, have some objections to that. And so I've revised that language to say that a board member may be removed only by the county which appointed the board member pursuant to the policies of that county and Utah law. But I did leave in the language that said the board can make a recommendation to a county that a board member be removed for cause upon certain actions taking place, such as an act that brings disrepute to the board, an act or behavior which is inimical to service on the board. This is all language that was in the draft before. Failure to attend at least 50% of board meetings, or you no longer are an elected official on the board, or an elected official with your entity. So So I've substituted the language to say the board may make a formal recommendation to the appointing county that a board member be removed by a 2/3 majority vote of the remaining sitting board members. And then that recommendation would go to the county. Brady has pointed out to me that a 3-year term is really kind of a strange duck for commissioners acting as board members, because you have 4-year terms, and so it's not always congruent with the term that you might be serving on the board. So we might want to put a separate line in there that just says the county, if your term expires due to the expiration of your office, the county can then appoint a new board member to fill that term. Because sometimes it will work though. You may be able to serve that entire 3-year term within the term of your office.
And I believe the 3 counties have discussed that and are agreeable to that.
So these are just this is the first stab at it. I know you haven't had time to look at it. I know Brady hasn't had time to look at it. But I do think you wanted those changes to those provisions so that it was very clear that substituting commissioner can act in place of the appointed commissioner, and to make it clear that a board member is just going to be removed by his own county's commission.
I like those, but in regards to the last point, I don't know that it really matters based upon the language, simply because assignments do change, whether a term expires or an assignment is given, as long as what you've explained here, that the county has the right to either send or appoint. I think that would definitely cover that point. And then the term is incidental, because that does change. I mean, we could change tomorrow in a public meeting and make that assignment to one of the commissioners there. So I think the term is incidental as far as the commission goes. Now the public entities, hopefully they would always fill a 3-year term.
Sure.
So, but anyway, just a thought on that one.
That makes sense.
And
I'm
kind
in
of
agreement.
in alignment with what you're saying, having the elected official board members by assignment from their counties, kind of as stated, because each county respectively will change up their assignments periodically.
The other thing that I noticed just in the language as we're going forward, but Grand County is a commission, so I'm wondering if
A council.
or a council, excuse me.
Until 2019.
Right. Anyway, I don't know if that needs to include county commissions or council.
I think I've written it that way everywhere, haven't I?
You have.
In the removal from the board
Oh,
section,
you're right. I see
recommendation
it.
to a county commission.
Or council is
Or
how it should
council.
read. You're right.
And
Yep.
then in the last sentence is the same thing, make a formal recommendation to the appointing county commission or council.
Just in that last paragraph.
Okay, yeah, I can make that. I think we also ought to say, it does say an appointed representative of a municipality no longer holds the elected or appointed position with that municipality. That's going to be automatic anyway, so that wouldn't require require the board to vote on that. So I'll probably pull out that part as well.
In regards to the conversation and the points that you've clarified, I feel that this is still something that we could approve unless there is something materially or substantially material that needs to be changed. So with the suggestions and clarifications that we've made today, I feel like we could still approve that.
I think you could. I mean, you've heard the substance of those. You've fully discussed the substance of the changes you've wanted, and it's just a matter of putting a final touch on any language, so I think you could do that.
I know the other counties are anxious to see all of us move forward with this.
So this would have to be subject to their approval also.
Sure.
Of anything that we approve would have to go through their process also.
And so
Or vice versa.
I would recommend that we do make a recommendation today, and that Christian is able to finalize those changes that we've mentioned, and that we send it out to the other 2 counties so that they can equally have time to address it in their meetings.
I'll make a motion to approve subject to the approved changes being drafted up and sent out to the other commissions and councils.
Motion made.
I'll second that.
And a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. And Brady, if you'll please bring to us any concerns that they may bring to you about what we've passed today.
I think what you mentioned is consistent with
I agree, but there's always, you know, what if we forgot something or whatever, so. Thank you.
Thanks for your work on it, Brady and Christian.
Item number 15, we have a closed session. It says possible closed session pursuant to UCA 52-4-205C, D, and E to discuss possible terms of purchase, sale, lease, or exchange of real property and pending or imminent litigation. During this closed session, we'd ask that the audience please leave the chambers.
We have to go into this by vote.
Yes.
Yes, I'm just giving some instructions so that we can pursue this conversation in a private matter.
I'll make the motion that we go into closed session to discuss the possible terms of the purchase, sale, lease, or exchange of real property in any